What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your friends play Crash Bash Part 1. This is the first Crash game. This is the first Crash Bandicoot party game. This is the second Crash Bandicoot spin-off game. This is the last Crash Bandicoot game that was on the PlayStation 1. This is the first Crash Bandicoot game not to be made by Naughty Dog, and this is the first and only Crash Bandicoot game to be made by Eurocom and Eurocom. And now you can see the music. This is a remix for Crash from the Warp Room theme from Crash Bandicoot 3. If you remember during my, I believe, the wrap-up video for Crash Bandicoot 3, I had mentioned that they reused that theme before. And you can see here at the options, adventure mode, battle mode, tournament, and options. We'll take a look at the options really quickly. The sound is set at 70, so if you want to listen, if you want the sound to be higher, you need to go ahead and do this. You can also do that while doing the single player. If you want, you can access the options menu while doing the single player. It doesn't really matter whenever you want to do it. You see here the controller. For adventure mode, this is the single player. Or there is a two-player co-op that you can do as well. You can see here I don't have another controller plugged in, but I wouldn't do the single-player co-op anyway. But anyway, so you can see here you can have 8 starting characters: Crash, Coco, Tiny, Dingo, who are working with Aku Aku and the Good. Or you have Cortex, Embryo, Koala Kong, and Rillaroo. Rillaroo is a one-time character that appeared only in this game, and he's not mentioned or seen outside of this game. Now, the way these characters act, Crash and Coco are the exact same. Crash being a little bit better in some games, Coco being better at different games, and I'll point those out as I get to those. Tiny and Kong share the same attributes. Again, Tiny is better at some games than Koala Kong, and vice versa. Dingo shares the same attributes with Rillaroo. Again, some games Dingo's better than Rillaroo, and vice versa. And then Cortex and Embryo share the same abilities, with Cortex being better at some games and Embryo being better at others. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and choose Crash just to keep with the theme of being Crash throughout the entire game, or, like I've been doing for the entire game. Sorry about that. Sometimes the audio will go out on this before, but what he's saying here is yeah, I apologize for that. That's a glitch that's been happening more and more recently for some reason. But what Ukuk was going to say, prepare to fight, Aku Aku would have said no. The ancients would not allow it. There must be no malice between us. You and your friends have been summoned here to do a battle against good and evil. May the best player win.
This is not a fair contest. You have too many players. If your confidence in evil is so great, you can win with equal size. You must surrender 2 of your team. Very well. Choose. Let the games begin.
And the reason for choosing Tiny and Dingo is because they share the same attributes as I said before with Koala Kong and Rillaroo, so they're kind of the same in like size-wise and everything. Cortex for most games, Cortex and Crash share the same attributes, and Coco and Embryo share the same attributes. But anyway, so you can see here in the Warp Room, you can see the level select things here. That's the boss selector. This is the Warp Room changer, and this is the save game thing. You can see here there's different games. Each minigame is classified by a different thing. This is a ball game where you ride on a hover ship and try to protect your goal from balls. Polar, you ride around on a polar bear trying to knock off the other players. Let me see if I can get a better description of these games. I'll see here really quickly. Alright, I'll click these and see if I can see a better. Yeah, the ballistics is a genre of minigames in Crash Bash. In ballistics levels, the player must use their hover ship to block and deflect steel balls into the opponent's goals. The balls are released into the arena and gain speed as the level progresses. When playing in team mode, you are still able to deflect balls into your partner's goals, so you have to be careful about that if you are doing a ballistics challenge on a co-op 2-player, or just playing 2-player by yourself, or but just playing 2-player during arcade mode. So for the polar push levels, the polar bear riding levels is a minigame genre in Crash Bash. The player rides a polar bear cub and tries to knock the opponents off the icy platform they are standing on. The polar bears have a stamina meter which quickly increases. Charging at another player takes away half of it. The bar depends on the player, and I'll talk about that once I get to it. Into that one, you can see Pogo Painter here is a part of the Pogo Pandemonium genre of levels. It is the second minigame genre not to be in a boss rounds, because there's only there are let me see. Okay, here. The objective of the game is to use jumping pogo sticks to jump on squares to where you are going. Use boots to help you go faster. Fire missiles to stun an opponent. The player can also take control of an opponent's route and keep jumping around until the time runs out. There was actually a cut Egyptian Pogo Painter themed level that was cut from the game. That is the only level to be cut from the game. It was cut by the last minute of the creators of the game. This information here does not say why, but I'm sure, well, I won't say I'm sure, but there may be something about it later on. And then with the Crate Crush levels, which is this one here, Jungle Bash. Crate Crush is a minigame genre of Crash Bash. The main objective is to eliminate opponents or have more health than them in the minute within the time limit. Like other types of bashes, there are 4 different arenas. There's also a 2-player exclusive level called Tiebreaker, which can be accessed by beating the 2-player adventure with both a good and evil character. Sadly, I won't be able to show that off here, but there you go. And I'll read all this once I get to the new genres of mini games. But just like with Crash 1, I'm going to start from the left and then work my way right. Or I guess with Crash 2 and 3, I start left and then work my way right with the mini games. So every time we go into a new warp room, I will always be doing the ball game first, which a lot of people normally wouldn't do because a lot of people don't like the ball games. But anyway, so you will see rules for every mini game that you come into, and these are the rules for this particular ballistics game. Use your ball to deflect use your ship to deflect the balls away from your goal. Win by being the last player standing. Move with the directional buttons or the controls or the left analog stick to deflect the balls to your ship. Hold either the L1 or the R1 buttons. You don't have to hold them both at the same time. To increase your ship's speed, press the square button to give the balls an extra kick. You can also hit them with your ship, but if you hit them with the square button, they will go a lot farther away. Now, because this is in the fourth warp room, because this is in the first warp room, the AI characters will be very, very easy to beat. They will almost let balls go into their goal. I mean, they'll just sit there and let the balls go into their goal. That's how easy they are. And first-time players to the game, that may be a good thing. But as you go on, the difficulty increases dramatically with these ball games, and so it's not. So you don't want to think, okay, well, this is going to be the same difficulty for the entire time. Once you get out of the first warp room, everything's going to get a lot harder. But anyway, so you can see here you do start with 15 points, which is the same as 15 balls. You lose 1 point for every ball that you let go past your goal. You can see some of these other characters. You can watch them and see their times run out. You do have different buzzers and different sounds for each character to let you know whenever they let a ball pass their goal. And the way that you win an event or a mini game is by getting these little cup. Wow, don't usually do this bad on the first one, but I'm sitting here talking instead of paying attention. You win by getting these little silver cups. You have to win 3 silver cups in a mini game. You don't have to win them 3 in a row. You just have to win 3 silver cups, and then you gain the trophy, which allows you to progress on. It's kind of like with Crash Team Racing. With the trophies, you get all the trophies as well as some other requirements to unlock the mini the bosses, and we'll see those requirements as we go along. This is one of the few mini games that does not have a time limit, so you have to sit here for a while, and sometimes, especially as you go later on in the game and the different challenges get harder for these mini games, you can actually have events last for quite a while. I've had them last nearly 30 minutes before, just because that was so difficult to beat before. Now you can taunt the other characters by hitting the triangle button. Each character has his or her own taunt that kind of looks the same. Like Crash and Coco kind of share the same taunt, except I believe Coco will whistle instead of she'll like shake her fist and whistle. Kong will kind of do what Crash is doing. You can watch Kong and you actually see him do it. He will shake his fist, like his arm, in the air. Tiny will do the same thing. Rillaru will laugh. Dingo will laugh. Cortex will laugh. Brio will shake his fist. And I guess that's it. That's all the taunts and everything. But now you can see the kick indicator on the front of the ships. If there's a yellow bar in front of them, in front of the ships, that means the ships have kick available to them. Just give me a moment. I'm dropping frames really rapidly. Alright, so as I was saying about the kick indicators, you can actually lose the kick for a time. You know, the fronts of the ships, you watch Cortex's ship, the very sides of my ship, and the front and sides of the other 2 ships there, and you can actually see, you can watch them turn black like Cortex's is just now, and you will not be able to kick while the light is turned off. And so you have to be very careful, especially as the difficulty increases later on in the game, because the kick is really the only thing that will help you win. As I said before, you can hit the balls with the ships, but it tends to not work all that well, and you have to really be running at them head on to actually make them go into the goal that you want them to, and they can really only go into the goals on the sides. So say if I knocked out both Rillaru and Kong, I still had to deal with Cortex, but I didn't have that much kick, or I didn't have a kick for a while. Well, I would have a very hard time trying to knock Cortex out, especially, as I said, as the difficulty gets higher, and he tries a lot harder and doesn't lose balls quite as quickly. And you can see there, he just kind of let that one go in there when normal people wouldn't let that one go in there. But anyway, so not too difficult. As I said, get 3 silver cups, and you will win the trophy. And the trophy is like the first one. You can come back in and get the gem and the crystal for 2 different types of challenges. The gems and the crystals we will talk about later on, actually in the next warp room. As I said, with the bosses, you have different requirements that you need to meet to be able to fight the bosses. With this first boss, all you need is 4 trophies, but with the second boss, you'll need to add some gems and crystals in there. And so we'll talk about that once we get to it. But anyway, so the objective here, charge into the other players to knock them off the ice, collect power-ups by entering the beam, and you'll see what the beam is. Win by being the last player standing. You can see there is a time limit, but you have to knock all the other players off to be able to win. Press the square button to charge into the other players. Watch the meter, because once the meter is all the way red, you cannot charge anymore, so you want to be very careful about that. While it is green, you can charge. Tap square repeatedly so that you can push yourself back into the arena when you fall. And you'll see myself do that, and you'll see the other characters do that. These are some special items. Pass the weight to the other players. They are on a countdown. Once they count down and the countdown ends, they will crush whoever has the weight above them. The lightning bolt is the same thing, except the lightning bolt will zap all the other players except for the one that is currently holding the lightning bolt. And we'll see that again. We'll see both of these later on. Now, each character has their own charging ability. Crash and Coco is kind of bad for charging. While they can do the most charges repeatedly, they don't fill their bar up very fast. Their charge is not that strong. This is the first event, by the way, so this is going to be very easy. But you can get about 3 charges in before the bar completely gets empty. Cortex and Embryo does one fast burst that if you hit them in the right, if you hit another player in the right spot, you can knock them out very easily. Rillaroo and Dingo can do 3 as well, but theirs is a lot weaker than Crash's and Coco's. And Kong and Tiny are the strongest. They charge the hardest. And but they can only do 2, and they're slow to, the bar is slow to fill back up, so you can only do 2 in a very long period. So that's one of the downsides to being Tiny and Kong, especially later on in the game, when you need to continuously charge over and over. It definitely does not pay to be them. But you can see there the holo projector. It's not like the holo projectors from Crash 1 and 2. Sadly, that would be pretty cool, but you can, if you notice, two other items you can gain from these beams. One that shrinks a player, which makes them very difficult. Which makes it very difficult to knock other players off the ice. It makes you more susceptible to being knocked off the ice, but you move faster. And you can also grow bigger, which means your charging hurts a lot worse. You are less susceptible to being knocked down, but you're very, very slow, so you want to be very careful with that. And something else that the other characters can deal with is their speed on the polar bears. Tiny and Kong are the slowest, followed by Dingo, Rillaroo, Crash, and Coco, and then Cortex and Embryo are the fastest while on the polar bears, but they only have, but they have that huge downside of only using the one burst, and they're very easy to be able to get to knock down. Now with the Pogo Painter here, move around the arena to turn squares into your color. Break the special crates, the purple exclamation crates, to turn your squares into points. Win by having the highest score when the time runs out. Move around with the directional buttons or the left analog stick. Press square to fire a missile. Stun other players with a missile. The arrows color whole rows of squares depending on which direction they're in, and click the speedy boots to move faster. Remember, break the special crates to turn your squares into points. Alright, so you can see each character has a square. Player 1 is yellow. Kong is blue. Well, if you look at it from like a player, like if it's actual people, player 1 is yellow, player 2 is red, player 3 is blue, and player 4 is green. And you can see how these people line up with that. Now, there's not a whole lot of benefit to actually being different characters. No one character is better than any other character on these. It's not like with a Pogo or with a Polar games where there's a huge disadvantage to being some characters than other characters. the only thing that I can tell is that the smaller characters move faster than the bigger characters. Again, you know, with the same kind of scale, like with the polars, you know, Kong and Tiny are the slowest, followed by Dingo, Rillaroo, Crash and Coco, and then Cortex and Brio. And that really doesn't. That does help, and it doesn't. You know, you can race people to boxes at the start. You see these boxes are randomly generated on different squares around the arena, and because they are randomly generated, sometimes at the starts of the events, you can actually have a box appear right beside you, and you have to, or somewhere right at the halfway point between one side of the field and the other, and so you would want to race another character to it. Well, being a faster character or a smaller, faster character will benefit you more in the end. But while trying to decide who to pick at the start of the game, you have to remember that there are other events. You know, while Crash is good at these events because he's smaller and faster, you know, he is worse at some other events. And so you just have to remember, you know, that kind of helps you decide who you want to be, you know, win. Now, you've noticed everyone keeps going after the speed shoes. If you notice there, me and Cortex was racing, you could tell the big difference in speed between me and Cortex. Like, Cortex was, you know, each bounce he was getting just a little bit farther ahead of me. Well, if you was going up against Tiny and Cortex, you would see a big difference between those two. But if you notice everyone's going after the bouncy boots, you can actually gain quite a bit of, well, not time, I was going to say time, but score by going after the bouncy boots. You can see anyone who's going after the boots are covering more ground quickly, and that allows you to gain more points quickly. If you notice, like, within 30 seconds, I had already got over 100 points, but now, since I haven't been able to get any boots, I've kind of slowed down a little bit. But the boots are a great way to help you get a lot of score fast, but there is a little bit of luck involved because they are randomly generated as well. You know, everything is randomly generated. There is no set pattern to anything on these types of mini games. So it's just luck, pretty much, whether something will fall where you want it to. But if you can grab a whole bunch of them in really quick succession, that will definitely help you out with different mini game. You know, with different Pogo mini games as we go along, you'll see that more and more. But some different things that will help you try to gain more score is by hitting the arrow crates. Will help you get a long line all the way across, you know, across the arena. At sometimes that will definitely help you out. Trying to shoot other people with the missiles so that they don't get any points will help as well. Or, you know, if you're trying to race someone to a box, that will help. Stepping another player's points will definitely help. Something you can do with the missiles is you can actually shoot them. Like, say, if you're bouncing up alongside someone, you can really quickly tap the directional buttons in the direction of a character, and you can shoot the missile that way while still continuing to hop in that direction, and that's a great way to race someone to a box. If you notice there, I just shot Rillaroo while continuing to go forward. I didn't stop, I didn't slow down, I shot the missile to the right and continued to bounce forward. That's a great way to help yourself continue to go forward and move forward, and it's a really great strategy if you can do it. Not everyone can do it. It does take some practice to get the timing right, because you have to aim in the direction and then immediately shoot the button, or, you know, immediately hit the button, or you will not be able to make it very easily. So you just it's all, you know, time. You have to be very precise and be very careful with your movements and all that. But anyway, so here, pick up and throw crates at your opponents. Win by being the last standing or having the most health when the time runs out. Press circle to pick up crates. Press circle again to throw the crates. Press square to kick crates, depending on who you are. If you're if you're Crash, Coco, Dingo, Rillaroo, you spin. If you're Kong, Tiny, you will kick them, and if you're Brio, Cortex, you will shoot them. If you watch Cortex and if you watch all the characters, you can see what they do. Press the square to jump. Stone crates, throw or kick these crates to add other players. TNT crates count down when kicked or picked up. Avoid the nitro crates, they act just like nitro crates in other games. Collect the Wumpa Fruit to increase your health. Now, the way that the way that the characters are in this game, or in this mini game, Tiny and Kong throw the farthest. Then it is then it is Cortex and Brio, followed by Rillaroo and Dingo, and then you have Tiny then you have Coco and Cortex, who throw the shortest. And I will be able to point that out as we, once we go into the next box event. That will actually have squares on the ground that you can measure, that I have measured before, the throwing distance. And it's kind of hard to tell with this jungle floor, the squares, but once I get to that level, I can show you the squares, and I'll be able to point that out better once we get to it. But the upside to being Crash is that he spins just like he does in the other games, and his spin will throw crates good ways. The Dingo Rillaroo spin does not work, or does not throw them quite as far. The zapping that Cortex does is shorter than what Rillaroo Dingo does, and then Tiny and Kong's kick is the shortest of them all. So you do have a downside to being able to kick. All of the spinning, kicking, and zapping only takes one Wumpa Fruit point of health. Wumpa Fruit will heal you for the same amount every time, but the kicks and everything will hurt you for the same amount every time. It takes one Wumpa Fruit to erase the damage from a kick, or from a spin or a kick. The only thing that is different is especially as you go on. While this is the first Crate Crush event or mini game, so you're going to take a lot less damage, and the enemies are going to take a lot more damage from all of the crates. The stone crates only hurt you for about 2 Wumpa Fruit points worth. In this game, the TNTs only hurt you, I think, for about 5 or 6, and the nitros only hurt you for like 8 or 9, I believe. But they'll hurt the enemies a lot worse. And now that we have 4 trophies, we can go in here and fight Papu Papu. But as you go on, the damage will be worse.
You have completed the challenges that have been set for you in this mode. To progress to the next set of games, you must defeat the mighty Papu Papu.
The only thing that will not be different like damage-wise throughout every single Bash game is the kick, spin, or zap. That will stay the same. It will only take 1 Wumpa Fruit worth of damage. So you see, defeat Papu Papu and his minions. And you can see Papu Papu there. What he will do is he will swing his staff down and then flip over some fire tiles that will go down from the top end of the arena to the other, and the pattern will get different. If you notice those Crash clones, they can pick up and throw crates. They can throw crates at you. They can also spin them at you. They will appear more, as you go on, more and more frequently. And then there will be, as you saw, 2 of them. All you have to do is just take a crate and throw them at him, at Papu Papu. You can see the pattern here for the stone, or for the fire stones will get worse and worse. The pattern will change. And there is actually a line of fire tiles behind him, behind the hottest tile, as you can actually see. You have to be careful and watch out for that. I believe it's like 4 squares behind the. I believe I think there's like 5 squares that are actually lit up that can actually hurt you. So you have to be careful for that. The only ways Papu Papu can actually damage you is by swinging his staff at you. The TNTs do not hurt him for any more damage than the normal stone crates are, so I really wouldn't waste the time it would take to throw the stone crates at him. But, you know, it's entirely up to you, whatever you want to do. Just because I'm going to go ahead, because I would normally end the video here, but just because I'm going to go ahead and do this new arena type next. And as we go on until the 4th warp room, we will see a new arena type in every warp room. Every warp room will have the different mini games, but then every new warp room will add another mini game to it. See, objective: destroy all your opponent's tanks. Win by being the last standing or having the most health when time runs out. L1 R1 rotates the turrets. Press the square button to fire the main weapon. Press circle to drop mines. Collect extra mines from these green topped canisters and collect one to increase your health. So here again, the differences, the speed of the tanks I believe are the same. I believe it's only the rate that your bullets, the speed and everything that your bullets fire in is different. I guess speed-wise, as I said, oh crap, wow. Crash and Coco have the weakest bullets damage-wise and the slowest bullets movement-wise. I believe their turrets rotate faster, and their tanks may be a little bit faster. I'm not sure if there's actually a speed on the tanks. Then you have Cortex and Embryo second for damage-wise, but they have the fastest bullets. And there's also range to the bullets. If you watch my bullet there, my bullet will go it can go 75%. It can go all the way to the other end of the arena and then come back 75% of the way. Kongs and Brio and Rillaru and Dingo have the second strongest bullets, but they can shoot two fireballs, which will actually help later on in the game if you have them. But theirs is, and they can actually, come back and backfire, or they can actually bounce off the other wall and then come back the other way. And there's really nothing wrong with being them. But then you have Tiny and Kongs being the strongest, but they have the slowest bullets. And you can actually see there is a speed to the tanks, because if you notice me and Cortex moving back and forth, I was actually beating Cortex, and then I just remembered racing Crash before while being Tiny, or I guess it was Kong I was being, and you can actually see you can actually tell that there was a speed difference. So from like tank movement speed, it would be Crash and Coco, and then Cortex and Embryo, Rillaru and Dingo, and then Kong and Tiny would be the slowest movement speed wise. I'll see if I can I'll see if I can categorize that a little bit better. I know I've been all over the place with that. So for movement speed, it would be in order from fastest to slowest: Crash, Cortex, Rillaru, Kong. From bullet strength, Qualicong, Rillaru, Cortex, Crash. From bullet movement speed, it's Cortex, Rillaru, Tiny, Crash. Or I'm sorry, Qualicong, Crash. For bullet length, Cortex, Crash, Rillaru, Kong. And so that kind of helps you out. In the long run, you'd want to be, you'd either want to pick Tiny or Kong, because you'd have to go to these levels later on, and it would definitely help you out once you got to them. But it is entirely up to you, because as I said, you have to think about the rest of the game. In the long run, being Tiny or Crash would definitely help you out. and it would be a lot better on you. But and there's really no disadvantage to being tiny or Kong. It's actually a bigger disadvantage to be some of the other players in the long run. But you know, it's entirely up to you, whoever you want to pick. But anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can find some trivia for the levels that I've done already. Crash Ball is a very simple ballistics level. The objective is to shoot the balls into opponents' goals. Each player starts with a score of 15. Each time a ball goes through a player's goal, their score will drop by 1 point. By pressing the square button, the player can use an extra kick to repel balls early. Trivia: there is a mini game in Crash Boom Bang similar to this one. It's called Hovercraft. The Crystal Challenge layout is the same as the Trophy Challenge, except the arrows flash red. Just to keep that in mind for later. Alright, let's see. We'll go to Polar Panic next. Polar Panic is the first Polar Push arena and the second arena to complete on Adventure Mode in Crash Bash. The objective of the game is to push the opposing players off the ice and into the water. The characters ride on polar bear cubs. If two or more players or members of both teams are still on the ice after 1 minute and 30 seconds, it's a tie. In this level, there are ice blocks surrounding the arena that need to be knocked off before anyone can fall off. The background is normally a starry night sky with an aurora in the upper middle of the screen. During the Crystal Challenge, however, it's a morning sky. Power-ups can be obtained from a robot that uses a beam every 15 seconds. However, this robot can also make things worse, as it can make the player tiny and easier to knock off and give them an anvil. Each of the characters use a special push move that uses energy that gradually regenerates. Crash, Coco, Dingo, and Rillaroo use small pushes that use some energy, whereas Cortex, Embryo, Tiny, and Qualakong have much larger pushes which use almost all of their energy. So that's a better way to kind of clump them together, but you also have to categorize it in smaller things. All the Polar Push levels are based on the Polar Bear levels of Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. I guess you could say Polar Panic would be what was that one? The Nighttime Bear one? I don't remember. I think Totally Bear, I believe is what it was called. Now we're going to go to Poco Painter. Poco Painter is the third level in Crash Bash. It is the first level that the player uses a pogo stick in to score points. Crash with a selected character must jump onto squares to change them to his color. To bank these points, he must bounce on a variation of a exclamation crate. Power-ups include speed shoes, which increase speed, and line painters, which will paint a full line of squares. No challenge, or no trivia for the level, but it looks a lot like the layout of the level looks a lot like the jet ski levels from Crash 2, without the water being in it. Jungle Bash is one of the 4 Crate Crush arenas on Crash Bash. The arena itself takes place in a jungle, hence the name Jungle Bash. The player's objective is to get rid of their opponents or have more health than their opponents in a short period of time. Stone crates, nitro crates, and TNT crates. Stone crates, nitro crates, TNT crates, and Wumpa Fruit are scattered around the arena. Running into nitros or throwing or having crates and TNTs being thrown at players and opponents will decrease the green health bar. However, collecting Wumpa Fruit will increase their bar. In Adventure Mode, players must win 3 rounds in order to receive a trophy. In the gym, I'll show the gym off later. I won't spoil it right now. Trivia: the music in this arena is very similar to the Stone Age levels in Crash Bandicoot Warped. And then we'll go to Papu Pummel, and we'll talk about that. Let's see, okay. Papu Pummel is the first boss fight in Crash Bash. Phase 1, Papu will begin the match by slamming his staff down on the battlefield. When he does so, a few different columns of tiles will begin to roll in a snake-like pattern. Avoid these squares, as any contact with them will result in damage. After the squares stop rolling, several crates will appear on the battlefield. Similar to a Crate Crush game, Papu will then raise a shield around himself, making a direct attack useless, and summon 2 minions who resemble Crash but are smaller and have red pants. Defeat these minions by throwing a crate at them or kicking them After they are dead, the shield will fall and Papu Papu will start laughing, leaving himself vulnerable. The player must take advantage of the opportunity to inflict damage and throw a crate at Papu Papu. Connecting with the throw will take away 1/4 of his health. Phase 2, Papu Papu will slam his staff on the battlefield again, destroying any of the crates left on the field. These crates explode on impact with the floor, so caution is necessary to avoid damage. More squares will begin to roll in the snake pattern, but more will roll than last time, so one must be more careful not to take damage. No trivia for the level, so we'll go to the tank. Desert Fox Tank Wars, that is the minigame genre. That's the name of the minigame. Desert Fox is the 9th arena at Crash Bash. It is the first tank arena set in a desert. The objective is to destroy your opponent's tanks without being destroyed yourself. Should the 90-second time limit expire and more than one player remains, then the player with the most health wins. There are 4 different types of tank, each with their own strengths. Crash and Coco use a fruit can. These rounds are the most balanced of the 4. Cortex and Embryo shoots. Tank shoots blasts of green energy. These rounds move much faster than any other. Tiny and Kong fire large spiky cannonballs. These rounds move slower than any other, but do more damage. And so if you're trying to fight a small character like Crash or Coco, they can actually outrun the thing, outrun Tiny and Kong's bullets. You want to be careful about that if you do decide to use them. Rollaroo and Dingo use small fireballs. These rounds do less damage than any other, but can fire an extra round. That was it. The extra round was the good thing, but they were the worst character to use damage wise. That was it. I was thinking, there was no, why not use Dingo or Rollaroo, because you have 2 shots, but that's why. Whenever a tank fires a shot, it cannot fire again until the shot either hits a target or expires after 5 seconds. Each tank is also capable of dropping up to 3 mines, which detonate after a few seconds, causing massive damage to any tanks nearby. No trivia for that, so I thank you for watching. The challenge video is how many shots did I shoot out of my tank during all 3 rounds, or I guess all 4 rounds of Desert Fox. Thanks for watching. During part 2, we will do the second warp room, and we may do the extra level in. Well, no, I guess we'll complete warp room 2 in part 2. So until then, later everyone.